I love Wolfenstein 2. In fact, I nearly crowned it my personal 2017 Game of the Year. Between the fluid FPS action, stealth scenarios, memorable characters, and impactful storytelling, Machine Games delivered us one of the finest shooters of this generation. Following the conclusion of the main narrative, I immediately found myself starving for additional content. Naturally, I jumped right into the optional side missions granted by collecting the Nazi Commander Enigma codes. I remained engaged for a time, but found myself yearning for a continued narrative in addition to the fierce gameplay. Thankfully, Part 1 of the Freedom Chronicles DLC is upon us, and it commences with the tale of Gunslinger Joe, a former rookie quarterback turned beast of vengeance. I'll avoid spoilers and spare you the minute details, but the story revolves around Joe's hunt for a former American dentist turned Nazi Uber commander, who's responsible for the death of his father, Joe Stallion. Due to Joe's unwillingness to comply with Nazi instruction on the football field, he's enslaved by the Reich. Upon receiving a pep talk from a fellow American prisoner, Joe's onslaught upon the Nazi bastards ensues. There are many elements I appreciate about Part 1 of the Freedom Chronicles. I'm a huge fan of small, contained tales within a larger narrative. I adore the main storyline and the characters who support it, but it's great to participate in another side of the fight. Though Gunslinger Joe and Uber Commander Roderick Metza are less compelling than our primary cast of characters, their stories are certainly unique. I love the idea of a former brute football star taking on an overwhelming force. Roderick Metza is especially interesting considering he's an American masquerading as a bona fide Nazi. We receive a taste of Nazi sympathizers throughout the main storyline, but never to the extent of Metza, so bringing him down was notably gratifying. In terms of gameplay, nothing has changed whatsoever, which is quite alright with me. As I previously mentioned, I thoroughly enjoy the moment-to-moment gameplay, and had just as much fun slaughtering the opposition here as I did throughout the 8 hours I spent doing so in the main game. If you've played Wolfenstein 2 in its entirety, you're familiar with the enhanced abilities you can choose following a major turning point in the story. Joe possesses the ability to smash through barriers and enemies alike. However, he doesn't require a specialized body in order to do so. In my initial playthrough of the main game, I chose the Constrictor Vest, as I typically took a stealth approach at every opportunity. Therefore, Joe's charge ability was totally new to me. I also chose to play Part 1 on the easiest difficulty setting. Wolfenstein 2 is surprisingly difficult, even on a normal setting, so running, gunning, and smashing Nazis to bits with a lack of a challenge was an absolute blast. Throughout Parts 1 through 3, Joe traverses 3 settings that you visit in the main game. Although the bulk of the adventure takes place in Springfield, Illinois, it strikingly resembles Roswell, New Mexico. However, this portion of the story was most enjoyable for me. While you merely take a leisurely stroll through Roswell in the main game, you pave the streets of Springfield with a fresh coat of Nazi ashes upon the back of a fire-breathing Panzerhound in the DLC. Sure, you can revisit Roswell during an Enigma code mission in the main game, but I found Joe's massacre in Springfield all the more enjoyable as you explore several buildings throughout the small town. Within them are the usual collectibles and various articles, notes, and diaries to read along the way. They're easily one of my favorite aspects of Wolfenstein 1 and 2, as they're capable of immersing you deeper within the Nazi-occupied world. The notes within Springfield particularly provide you with a look at how organized sports were altered by the Nazi regime. Joe's story begins within a Nazi stronghold, which is unfortunately where you spend the majority of the main game, and concludes on Venus. I would have appreciated exploring all new locations, but thankfully we have that to look forward to in Parts 2 and 3 of the Freedom Chronicles, as previewed in Episode 0. Much of my adoration for Wolfenstein 2's storytelling is rooted in its visually engaging cutscenes. The Freedom Chronicles sacrifices cinematic scenes for comic book panels and voiceover. Some may consider it a step back, but I find it to be an intriguing approach. Sure, the new visual formula may have been substituted due to a limited budget and time constraints, but it works for me. I'm a moderate fan of comics myself, and each of the Freedom Chronicles stories are presented in a bite-sized form, similar to an issue of a comic. Overall, Gunslinger Joe's Chronicle is an enjoyable one. Though I finished it within an hour and a half, it contained a suitable beginning, middle, and end. The characters are all one note, but managed to make a decent impact. If you love Wolfenstein 2's gameplay as much as I do, you're bound to have a good time here. In the meantime, I'm stoked for Agent Silent Death's Chronicle in Part 2. For more on Wolfenstein 2, check us out online at COGconnected.com. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to COGconnected for all things gaming.